Hello, 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 beautiful friends. Thank you for being here. I know it's been a while, but it's just been a lot of shifting and processing and integrating from me, which is part of what I'd like to speak on today because I think it's very relatable. But first, I just want to say, you know, God bless. God bless all of you. Thanks for being here, and congratulations on making it through, you know, probably the most crazy, tumultuous year, so far. And I kind of want to speak on that too, as we are closing up this year. I know it's not the real new year, but it's still a great opportunity, as always, as every day is, to reflect and, set intentions for the new, as well as kind of dive into, what I'm feeling for next year, to 2022, that I think many of us are probably feeling as well. So I'm excited about that. I'm really excited to get into this message. So a lot of what I've been feeling is just really building off of what I've been talking about in my last few videos of integrating. And as someone who spends a lot of time healing and, doing healing, energy healing on myself, on others, learning about healing techniques and modalities, lots of time and energy for the past at least 5 years on such things. I am just being so blown away at things that I am discovering right now, and as a side note, having this feeling it's so epic for me. And again, I think a lot of people feel this way, where I feel like I've come so far and I've done so much, and I have, and yet I feel like my work hasn't even begun yet. I really feel that way, and I mean that in a positive way, because there's just so much opportunity, and these are things, and I want to say this, I feel called to say this because I think a lot of people are in this boat. A lot of people are looking for their purpose right now. Maybe they have no idea, or maybe they have an idea, or they're still kind of just like, I don't know. I just want to affirm, that we're all feeling that way for the most part, even if we have, even if we are deep into our work on earth, because there's so much more to unfold, there's so much more to unravel, and we can't predict these things. And it's honestly a blessing that we can't, even though our ego wants to know these things. If our ego did know these things, it would probably mess it up for us, if you know what I mean. So it's good that we don't know everything, it's good that and we can't expect it, because I was just reflecting today, some of my greatest, most profound healing moments or revelations, they always come unexpectedly. It's not something I can plan. It's not something I can predict, It always happens through some really strange thing that I just, there's no way I would have predicted that, I was going to meet this person, or that I was going to see this thing, or that this random scene in a movie was going to trigger this like super deep like healing for me, or anything of that nature. You really can't predict these things. Just a reminder, because there is a divine unfolding. I think it's important to, make the intention and make the effort to be the best you can be, and show up with that intention every day. That's what I do. Being gentle with yourself, because we are human, but still making the intention to, eat light, eat healthy, treat people with respect, treat yourself with love, do the things that your intuition calls you to do, that you should be doing, this kind of thing. But by the same token, this is such a natural process, especially when you do make those intentions. This is such a awakening and ascending, evolving. This is such a natural process that's literally built into us, that we literally design for ourselves. Again, this is just my experience and what I find time and time again. It really is a divine timing. Time is not what we think. We have to remind ourselves, I do at least, we experience time in like a linear fashion, but on a higher level, time is, it's like a canvas. It's like a medium that is used constructively. It's not linear. I still have a lot to understand about that, but I'm just flowing. It's all connected. That's kind of my style. But my point is, there's things that we can't control, and there's things that we don't understand. How they're going to happen, how they're going to unfold. But it's very natural. It's not something, we don't have to do all of it. We just have to show up, make the intentions to be, to be present, to be doing what we know we need to do. We know what we need to do. Oftentimes it's just kind of flow, just be. And when we can really step into that, that's usually when we can open ourselves up to that trust in ourselves. That's usually when the most unexpected moments happen. And actually, that just happened to me yesterday. And maybe I'll talk about that more towards the end, because it's related to what I really want to get into today, which is integration. So that's what I was getting at with, again, having been doing and studying holistic and energy healing for a while, and to be getting into so deep these experiences, it's just such a gift. So I just want to kind of speak on that and share that as well, maybe in more depth than in my last videos. And just building off that, if you haven't seen that, or just to refresh your memory of, for example, being the observer in your life, being the observer of your thoughts, being the observer of your personality, and in reality, your personalities, because we all have splits. I mean, the ego itself is a split. From what I'm talking about between the higher self and the ego, that in itself is a split. And like I said in my last video, it's very, very helpful to start observing your ego when it comes in, which it comes in all the time. And instead of fighting it, instead of identifying with it, instead of hating it or resenting it or any of these things, these knee-jerk reactions, if you can just observe it and talk to it civilly as your true self, as your higher self, and, just affirm to it that you've got this, that you see it, you see the ego, but you don't need to react in scarcity anymore. You don't need to react in fear anymore. You don't need to react, in those egotistical reactions anymore. There's so much power in that. And speaking to the ego as if it were a child, very authoritatively but very gently. Because to me, and this is really what I want to speak on today, because this is just such a game changer, it has been for me, that's the best thing you can do. And it's the same way with all these different aspects of yourself. So if you've never heard of, people call it parts work, maybe this is new information for some people. And honestly, this is, to go this depth is actually even new for me. And I've literally been experiencing this. As I said before, I never talk about anything on here that I haven't myself experienced and experimented with. So in the same way that humanity is a collective, we're individuals, we have our own free will, but we are, as human beings in these bodies, we are inevitably connected. We are inevitably tied to each other through our consciousness. It's the same thing. It's another fractal with your own self. You are a collective. As an individual, you are a collective. And this is so important because you hold so many different split consciousnesses within you in many different ways. For example, even your own organs have their own consciousness. But maybe a better, what I really want to get into today is our personality. Even our own personality, all of us. I know there's multiple personality disorder, maybe those are extreme cases, but we all actually have this. We all have these sub-personalities. Not just the ego, not just the higher self, but, our inner child, our inner critic, That's why, often sometimes when we have a hard time making a decision, it's because we have these conflicting aspects of ourselves. There's many, many, many aspects of ourselves. And I'm sure you understand what I mean when I say that, you know, we have our masculine side, our feminine side, within all of us, regardless of your gender. And again, like inner critic, inner child, all these different aspects of ourselves, that the key is not to deny these aspects, even the negative ones, but to bring them into harmony. And to do this, you can directly communicate with these different aspects of yourself. And this is really what I've been doing. And I've been really having some profound experiences and results with this. And one of the most amazing things I've found that I have to share right off the bat is a lot of these aspects of ourselves, because this is very similar to the ego and even the fragments of the ego, the traumatized aspects. And I know I'm all over the place, but this is really about wholeness, because this is about what I think we're going to be going into more and more in 2022, because it's the same pattern we've been seeing. This is, again, just what I feel in my heart, where we are getting more empowered, we're getting stronger, we're remembering who we are more. We're remembering who we are more for the first time in thousands of years. This is huge, very, very empowering. And by the same token, the world is getting more chaotic. Things are getting crazier. There's more darkness, there's more light, there's more darkness. And it's not really about denying the darkness. It's about being able to stand sovereign and sovereignty, in your sovereign choice of what do you want to experience, remembering your power. So there's nothing to be afraid of. I think this is going to be the best year of our lives if you are opening up to this inner guidance 100%. Even though things are 100% going to be getting crazier in the world. Remember, we're going to be doing this first. We're going to be really awakening first. So we are pioneers in that sense. We are trailblazers in that sense. We are doing something that's never been done before. Our entire way of life is changing. And I'm all over the place, but this is just how it's coming out, seriously. Just take a moment to appreciate how far you've come just since a year ago, just since 2 years ago. Undeniably, we have grown so much more than we tend to really realize and appreciate. I was just thinking to myself in the grocery store, this is probably about a week ago, they always have these announcements like on the PA or whatever, minding my own business in the grocery store, and it's like, ding, come get your V, or be sure to wear a mask, or blah blah blah. And I just kind of laugh at it now. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it hit me like just 1 year ago, when I would hear that, I would be so triggered, like so triggered. Like I would be just so mad and infuriated about how ridiculous this all is, and how much how it's all lies and all this stuff. I'd be so triggered, emotionally. And not to be desensitized to it, but it just goes to show how far we've come in being able, because I think a lot of people feel that way. And being able to hold, what's happening, what's unfolding right now in the earth. So, going back to what I was saying about integration. This is the really important part that I was going to say. The more you start to do this work, again, just like talking to the ego in a simple way, instead of demonizing it, instead of hating it, instead of fighting it, instead of resisting it, instead of repressing it. These are all conditions that we're kind of programmed to do to keep us out of balance, to keep us out of harmony, to keep us in this internal conflict. It's a spiritual affliction when you can't even be in your own self without this fighting, without this division within your own self. And it's obviously we see this in the collective of humanity, but we have to bring it back to ourselves first. This division we have within our own self, ruthless, fighting the ego. So this is my point. When it comes to these aspects of yourself, even the most dark and painful negative aspects of yourself, as you're awakening and as you're coming into your higher self, which you are, just a reminder, if you need to hear this, you already are your highest potential right now. Just because maybe shadow aspects are coming up, or negative aspects are coming up, or patterns are coming up, the fact that you're even able to see that it's a pattern, that's a shadow, already means that you've evolved. The fact that you can see it, even if you're still going through it, even if you're still working through it, remember that we are progressing. Some of these things take a while to integrate. That's just how it is. It doesn't mean you're regressing. So here's my point here, finally getting to it. A lot of these aspects of yourself, again, even the dark ones, even the negative ones, even your inner critic, if anything, especially your inner critic, these voices, these aspects of your personality, we're so programmed to, again, repress or demonize or fight these aspects. And I'm here to tell you that these aspects of yourself are actually benevolent. Many of these aspects of yourself are actually benevolent. It's not that they're evil. It's not that there's something wrong with you. What it really is perhaps you just haven't come into balance with these aspects of yourself. You haven't come into harmony with these aspects of yourself. So that's what I want to talk to, because you can do this. You can come into harmony with these aspects of yourself. And this is a part of wholeness. And again, this is just my experience living as a human being. Obviously, we're not humans. We're way more than humans. But we're having a human experience on Earth where there is light and dark. There is duality. It's multidimensional. So we're already above duality, but we're still playing in duality. Just like, these high vibrational energies, it's like we're grounding them, we're incarnating them, we're anchoring them in as physicality. This shift is very physical. That's why we feel this physically. When you feel things physically, it's very, very intense. So that's what I was going to say is we're standing in, again, this duality of extreme light and dark. And from what I can see, this is only going to get more intense. But again, we're only going to get more empowered. But the dark isn't going to just go away. Rather, we're going to be more empowered to see it and to choose. And when I say dark, I'm speaking of not just evil, but just the ignorance, the unknown, the lack of light, the shadow. Kind of reframing how we see this. Within ourselves is what I'm speaking of, because we have to do this in ourselves first. We have to really master this in ourselves to be able to shift it externally, which, by the way, we've been shifting the external. All of us, we are doing this work. It's incredible. Just have to do a little shout out for that, because you can see things are changing so much. So just so much kudos to all of us for being here and doing this work. But going back to what I was saying, these darker aspects of yourself, your inner critic, these traumatized aspects, we all have our own shadow, unworthiness, lack, resentment, fear. Let's really dive deep into this, because these are aspects of what we would call the ego. These are more materialistic aspects, more negative aspects, more lower vibrational aspects, whatever you want to call them. This is what I really, really, really just want to get across. This is what I mean when I say these aspects are actually benevolent. They're actually here to help you. You find this as you begin to integrate them into your wholeness. These aspects aren't just going to dissolve. The things that you have experienced and been through that have made you who you are now happen for a reason. They're never going to just go away. What happens is you integrate them. And this involves a process of honoring them for what they are. And for me, at least, this is a very different approach than trying to fight them or trying to resent them or trying to demonize them. Because if you think about it, is it really the fear, or is it the fear of the fear that really hurts us and affects us. That's just one example. And this is just one way, again, that we actually avoid feeling. And feeling is healing. We got to feel these feelings. For example, the inner critic. We all have this voice. And oftentimes it manifests as, oh, don't do that, they're not going to see you. They're going to think you're weird. You won't be good enough. Again, we all have that inner critic. This is just my experience. As I've begun to observe that inner critic and talk to it, work with this other aspect of myself directly. We can do this. It's not as hard as you think. It's very innate. The more I find that this inner critic is not evil. And in fact, it is here to serve me, just like the ego is here to serve. So, real quick lesson on trauma. Especially when you're young, this can happen anytime in your life, but especially when you're young and you experience a trauma, and it doesn't even have to be anything crazy. It can literally be something really small that just affects you, a certain way. When you experience a trauma that's just, it's too much for you to bear at that moment, like it would just make you go insane. This is what the ego is. The ego will split that off. Basically, the ego will split that pain, and it will, this is just my description, it will bury it in your psyche. And it doesn't just go away. It buries it, and when you're ready, when you are in a place in life where you're able to heal that and deal with that, it will come back out. It will come back up. And it doesn't come back up unless you are actually ready to face it. And that's, I'm a huge advocate for facing it. You have to face it. That's me all the time now. It's just, if something comes up, let's face it. Let's face it. I don't run from myself anymore at all. Sometimes I still find myself doing that, but as soon as it's conscious, I'm facing it. I'm not running from anything. I don't run from my emotions. I don't run from my trauma. I don't run from my pain. I devour it. And this is why, because this is what I mean when it's benevolent. It's transformation. It's integration. That darkness, it doesn't just go away, but it's almost as if it gets swallowed by the light. But it gets transformed into something beautiful. And this is what healing really is. So those darkest aspects of your shadow are fuel. That's all it is. That's all I see it as now. I don't see it as a victim. I don't see it as, it's not God punishing me. It's not the universe punishing me. It's literally like food. It's in a way, it's like food for my inner spirit to grow and transform from. So even the inner critic, if you sit and speak with the inner critic, going back to what I was saying about trauma, how that's your ego. Your ego is meant to keep you safe. It's meant to protect you, and it does. That's why all these things come up, is because those things that we weren't able to process or face before, we're ready to face it now when it comes up. And we have to integrate that back into ourselves, these split aspects, bringing it into wholeness, seeing it. And this is the thing, again, tying back to what I was saying before. All you have to really do is begin to see it and come at it with an open heart. Be present with it. It's a very natural process. So again, the inner critic, just like the ego, it's an aspect of your ego. For whatever reason, it's trying to keep you safe. And if it's no longer serving you, if it's holding you back from being who you are, if it's holding you back from expressing yourself in a way that you are ready, you feel you are ready now to express yourself, you need to have a conversation with that aspect of yourself. You can do this in journaling, you can just do this in a meditation, you know what I mean? But this is real work. It sounds abstract, but this is the real work we're doing. This is what I do all day long. I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to observe and, like a mad scientist, experiment with these things and see what works. And this really does work for me, and I think it could work for many. I'm not the first person to do this kind of work. This is just my own unique expression of it. And I hope this is making sense, because I know I'm all over the place, but it really is all connected. So just to kind of conclude that point, like with the inner critic, again, that's that ego trying to protect you. It's not trying to torture you. It's trying to keep you safe. And there was a time in your life where it did keep you safe. But as we grow, we no longer need these walls, And in fact, these walls that used to help us start to make us sick. So we have to break down those walls. And it doesn't mean we fight ourselves. It doesn't mean we hate ourselves. It doesn't mean, we demonize and repress these selves. I've found again and again and again, the more we just, in a civil manner, approach these aspects, these traumatized aspects, these hurt aspects of ourselves, with an open heart, with compassion, with gentleness, the same way, again, you would talk to a child. The more you can really accelerate your healing when you start to do this in your life on a daily basis, or however often these things come up for you. It's very, very game-changing, and it's very important to have that love and compassion for these hurt aspects of yourself, because it is very much like talking to a child. And because in many of the cases, these traumas, these fragmented aspects of yourself, because that's what we do on earth here, we fragment consciousness all the time. Oftentimes it is from childhood. If you understand anything about psychology and how childhood trauma works, and I already talked about it a little bit just now in this video, you would see the wisdom in no longer coming at these aspects of yourself, even again, the really dark ones, the really painful ones, the addictions, the self-sabotaging behaviors. What people think is self-sabotaging, I've come to find more and more, it's not even self-sabotaging. It's really just programs that used to serve you, that no longer serve you, that you pretty much have to go inside to the command line and update, And you can do this consciously by having these internal conversations with yourself. And you might have to do it a few times. You might have to do it multiple times as you integrate. That's really the key word here. That's really what I find the true core of healing is, at least right now for me, is integration. For example, if you're having, issues with finances, there's a lack mentality. There's probably a trauma around money, or maybe there's a fear around money. A lot of us are taught money is evil, on and on. So that's just another example. Can you approach this lack mentality, this scarcity mentality, directly with compassion, with love, with respect and honor? We have to honor these aspects. And even the darkness, I find I have to honor it. That doesn't mean I obviously submit to it at all. It's not the same thing. It doesn't mean I give into it, but I honor it. How could you not honor the dark? How could you not honor the fear consciousness when you can see the kind of effect it's had on people? Dang, that's crazy. So it's like I honor these consciousnesses, and I find when you come with that attitude, still sovereign, still empowered, still in your truth, still knowing who you are, but with a sense of honor, with a sense of wisdom, we are able to move mountains with this, because we're no longer insecure about who we are. We know who we are. More and more, we are powerful. We have nothing to be afraid of when we remember this. And perhaps one of the last things I'm going to say, my phone battery is actually going to die, and this is pretty long already. Another note to add on that I've been feeling so much, I've been feeling this for a while, but I really feel it now, is when I look back at darkest times of my life, the most painful moment specifically, a certain time in my life where I really just wanted to give up. It was just so painful and hopeless. When I look at that now, I've never felt more gratitude for that experience. I'm so serious. I mean, I literally I'm so appreciating that I had that experience. I really, really am. And every experience that I've had like that, because it's brought me to where I am right now and who I am right now. And I love who I am right now. I love what I'm experiencing right now. It's like, it's so satisfying. It's so meaningful to be able to be like, wow, so that's really what I'm getting at, is look at these negative aspects of yourself, unworthiness, lack, fear, anxiety, depression, anything. These dark aspects of your life, what have they taught you? Because as you begin to, again, recognize these aspects, these split consciousnesses within you, and you begin to honor them, and you see, wow, look at what these things have taught me. If it wasn't for these experiences, think of all the things that you might never have learned in this life. All the lessons you may never have learned. I feel like without again, this pain, really honoring and appreciating this darkness, it's like I would not be talking to you right now the way I am. I would not be at all. I would not be nearly as wise or intelligent or any of these things, creative, as I am today. I would not be nearly as knowledgeable on health or any of these things without these challenges in my life. And as I begin to honor them and speak directly to them and thank them for what they have taught me and integrate them, they no longer control me. They can no longer control me because it's like I've learned what I needed to learn. And I'm literally telling you, I'm experiencing the craziest things, because as I'm doing this, as I'm integrating these lower aspects of myself with honor and love and appreciation, these higher aspects are coming in. And I'm telling you, this is like the best thing ever. I mean, I can't even believe what I'm experiencing, and I'll go more into depth into this. It's still a lot for me to process and unpack, to be honest. I'm not going to touch too much on that right now. But I'm telling you, so many amazing blessings have been coming as I've been doing this work. These higher aspects have been able to really come in. Things that I didn't even know existed. Things that were completely, again, unexpected to me, that I could not have planned. It's kind of making me think of that saying, as above, so below. As we begin to integrate our shadow, we integrate these lower aspects of ourselves that are not bad. They're not evil. You don't have to see them that way. They're just really amazing lessons. As we are whole beings, we are the yin and the yang. We are the dark and the light. Again, that doesn't mean we have to be evil, but we do have darkness within us. That when we're integrated with it and we're in our light, we're in our true sovereignty, we're in our true, for lack of better words, godliness, we are able to live in such harmony with these aspects, because again, these negative aspects don't just go away. They become integrated. And when you integrate them, they don't control you anymore. You can still access them, you can still experience them, but they do not control you anymore. These behaviors, these addictions, these fears, these lack,